Good morning, Darin, and welcome to the Low Carb Paleo Show.
Good morning, Alain. Glad to be here.
It's our pleasure. And good morning, Mark. How are you doing?
Wonderful, thank you. I can't complain whatsoever, and there's no point because no one listens when you do either. But fine, how do you do?
Hey, Mark.
Darin, you call yourself a global superfood hunter, and you found Barukas nuts during one of your trips to Brazil. But first, let's talk about you a little. What can you tell us about your professional background?
Well, I think it started when I was in college. It was the first time where I was thinking I was going down a path. I got hurt playing college American football, and then that sent me down this path of studying in my undergrad physiology, nutrition, kinesiology, all of those things. And as soon as I started learning about the body, it was quick to realize that it was a incredible machine that we get to carry around with us, and with that, what you do with it, what you put into your body, radically changes. And so all of those roads kind of started coming together. And then after I graduated, I moved from Minnesota to Boulder, Colorado, where I studied more physiology and rehabilitation and nutrition. And I worked with a group studying movement and rehabilitation. And then I kind of was at this place where I saw the intersection between really the consciousness of someone as it relates to how they got better or how they developed habits or not developed habits. And then so I got a master's in psychology. And I'm eternally fascinated with the relationship we have with ourselves, with our relationship with the planet, the universe, and all of those things. And really then the category of taking care of yourself through health and movement and nutrition, that took a turn professionally because I was playing around with herbs and studying and researching, and I really saw the industries not doing things properly from a control perspective, from a quality perspective. And so it just kind of dawned on me, kind of the blue collar farmer in me, meaning that my family is from that region in Minnesota. My dad was an agricultural professor at the University of Minnesota. I then took on kind of this idea of, well, if I'm seeing products that are not done correctly, then I need to go find out why and what I can potentially do about it. Not thinking that I was going to create a business necessarily, but I was needing to investigate that. So I started jumping on planes and ending up in the Amazons and the Himalayas and everything in between, really being able to look under the hood of what was going on in food systems and in botanical processing, working directly with indigenous people. So when my father passed away in 2005 of alcoholism, that was really a point in my life where it was what I was doing. I said, listen, I really need to bring this out to the world because I'm discovering a lot of amazing things that can help people. And I believe the more we take control of our bodies and our eating and our health, the more we have available to us to live the kind of life that we want. So we don't have to kind of run around suffering. So when my father passed, I then took what I was learning and said, listen, I'm going to start formulating these things. I'm going to start bringing out some underutilized and not discovered botanicals. And in the process of really committing, that's when I got hired by the company Beachbody in the US, which is a very successful workout company. And they hired me to formulate a new product. And that product was called Shakeology, and it continues to sell to this day. so that was the pursuit. And then for the next 10 years, I've been still traveling around, investigating plants and seeing if there's commercial viability of making sure that it's a win for the indigenous people that are either growing or collecting, that the quality control is of high standards, especially in a lot of third world situations.
Mm.
And then in that pursuit, you come across these kind of not only the amazing stories of culture, of
Right.
being in the middle of nowhere and getting to know people and how they view the world and how they use some of these plants, some of which have been used for 10 to 20,000 years, if not even more. In those pursuits, the beautiful thing is you come into many situations where you know nothing and you're a complete student. And that's what I love probably the most. And that's the same way that Barukas, this amazing nut out of the Cerrado of Brazil, came about. I was discovering something else in the Amazon of Brazil, and then a Brazilian got my attention and reached out to me telling me about this nut. And in that pursuit of learning about it, I've come to realize the nut itself was one of the most delicious nuts because there's no barrier to entry of a palate at that point. And so that got my attention. Then when we did the nutritional analysis, we come to realize that it had a nutritional superiority than any nut we've ever seen. And then it was intimately connected, necessary to work directly and fairly with the indigenous people because it's in a landmass the size of 3 states of Texas, or a third of the United States. It's a huge landmass.
Mm.
And that being said, it's being destroyed faster than any natural biome or area on the planet, and no one knows that, and no one knows about it. So factory farming, unsustainable soy and corn and food essentially for cattle. And so the Baruzeita tree, which is a very special, precious tree in the Cerrado, is what bears the fruit of the Barukas. And so we could then tie it to, if we sell these and create commercial viability, we can then replant in the biome these special trees and give them back to the indigenous people to plant in the wild and build back, number one, a stability for them to have an economy. Because what we do is we come in and say, we will buy anything and everything you collect in the wild with the Baruzeita tree, the Barukas, and we will pay you fairly and buy everything for the next 20 years. So being traveled all over the world, there's nothing better for a collector, a farmer, or a forager that you can say, you go do your work and we will guarantee we're buying it from you. And that doesn't happen. And I've seen it 20 different times in 20 different cultures of it not working. So to be able to do that, and then for every 5 pounds of Barukas we sell, we plant a tree. And that is something we do not compromise on. And so we have nurseries where we have a 95% germination rate of these trees. Very strong tree, which part of the reason in the Cerrado, it's such a strong tree developing all these nutrients and antioxidants. Well, that's what we get to benefit from, right? So as a consumer, you get to eat this delicious nut that happens to be a little vitamin that you're eating as well, with all the nutrients that it has. And it's directly connected to everything I said, with helping the indigenous people and supporting a healthy biome. And so to me, in this place in my career, it's such a blessing to be able to build a business that has no losses and it's not driven by profit, but the profit is a pillar of necessity to create the sustainability, but it's not the only thing. So we're extremely proud of that, and something that I just have to support. And we have an amazing team that's doing the great work, making it possible.
Cool. So it's a nut that not only tastes good, makes you feel good physically, but also in knowing you're helping other people and cultures. So why did you decide to offer the Barukas nuts to the paleo keto public? I guess it was an entryway to the general public. How did it work?
You mean in terms of what, marketing through the paleo and keto world?
Yes.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, it's number one, from the paleo. I mean, from the origins of the Paleolithic idea, right? And that is something that has been used indigenously for a long period of time. So, and at the same time, it's probably closer to many of the foods that we also now call Paleolithic or keto friendly, because it is a truly wild food. So that's the beautiful thing. So it's as connected to a food naturally than any other. So you can't pick it early. So it has to fall from the tree. That's when the nut is formed inside. It's one nut per fruit. And so the foragers go out and they pick it up. And so we did historical data by meeting we work with thousands of people, and we've had hundreds of meetings digging into all of the historical data, and come to realize that we did all the tests on the phytic acids and oxalates and all of that stuff, and you realize that, they never ingested this nut in its raw form. It was never meant to be consumed in the raw form. So what they did, because it had all these anti-nutrients protecting it naturally, and what they used to do is they took the whole fruit, which is about the size of my palm, with the one nut inside, and they would throw it on a fire, and in the morning it would be kind of an embered fire, and it would roast the nut inside, which would unlock the nutrients, which is so fascinating, because you do find this where cooking does and fire does unlock certain nutrients in foods. And this was very much that, whereas as a human or an animal, you could eat the fruit on the outside, which is a thin layer, but you couldn't eat the nut. So following the steps in the indigenous people, we roast these nuts and it unlocks the nutrients. So it becomes very important for the microbiome, because it's 3 times more fiber than almost any nut. And as we know, the indigenous people, our ancestors, ate 100 plus grams of fiber every day, and we are sadly missing that mark. The average person is maybe getting 30 grams of fiber. So the fiber aspect, and we know now how important the support of the microbiome, and even the uptake. It's even less and less about the nutrients of the food and more about the nutrients of the food as it relates to a healthy microflora. And so the fiber in Barukas is incredible. And the fat content is an oleic fat content, so it's high antioxidants, more monounsaturated, less saturated fat. So there is a less amount of fat in there because of really the environment it's coming in. But then you have it made up in the antioxidant capacity. So very high, 2 to 3 times more than any nut we've ever seen of the antioxidants. And as we know, antioxidants are intimately connected to anti-aging and thwarting the damage of stress and just cellular metabolism. So, so the antioxidants become a really important factor, and to be able to deliver that amount of antioxidants in the Barukas is kind of this side win that is extremely important. And then you have things, the micronutrients. So then you're looking at, okay, calcium, magnesium, zinc, iron, and those are some of the top, especially calcium, magnesium, and iron are some of the lowest we get in food form these days. So to be able to have a food that's delicious, that you can consume and get your bioavailable micronutrients, is incredible. So it really starts checking all those boxes of, like, it's a wild food, it's antioxidant rich, it's coming directly from the indigenous people, it's supporting the biome. If there's anything more Paleolithic, it's definitely those categories.
Right.
And then to be able to have something taste so well that kids consume it like crazy, and there's no barrier to that. We don't have to choke it down like some of our other botanically rich foods. Is just something that makes the marketing of it a lot easier, because you have no barrier to that entry.
Right. I'm curious, you mentioned the fruit. Is the fruit around the nut, is that edible as well?
Yeah, so we've done some experimenting on that, and it's, again, extremely high in antioxidants. And the fiber also is super high in that, and then micronutrients. So what we did was, when I saw an old fruit, when I was in Brazil, I saw an old fruit as it relates to one we just gathered, and I couldn't tell a physical looking at it, couldn't tell the difference. And I was like, that's a fruit on the outside. There's a few millimeters of fruit. How is it not breaking down? So of course, then my brain kicks in, and I said, well, there's something going on with that fruit. There's a preservation, and that preservation has to be high nutrient value. It has to be some antioxidant cacophony going on. And so I started peeling it as we're bouncing around in the car throughout the Cerrado, and I peeled the fruit on the outside. And then I took it home and we started testing it. Of course, we were surprised with more antioxidants, more micronutrients, and then we ended up dehydrating it more, and it became this incredibly nutrient-dense chip that was delicious. And so now we've just announced that we have a Barukas trail mix with the ultimate alchemy, the fruit from the outside with the actual nut. And I'm telling you, people go crazy over it, because you're getting the health. Yeah, it's incredible. It's just one of those things.
I want to try some of that. So
we'll definitely send you some.
Yes. So I was wondering about, if there was, from what little I knew, is the fruit actually used, or is it wasted away or thrown out just to get to the nut? So I'm glad that you're using the whole fruit.
100%. Like, it was a huge win for us from a business model and from an environmental space. And we're also investigating other ways to use the fruit. So keep in mind, you have 25 grams of, as we call the fruit, the whole thing. Yeah. So there's about 10 grams of fruit on the outside and 1 gram of seed, and the rest is this very hard shell.
Right.
So yes, capturing another almost 50% of what was wasted with the fruit was extremely important. So we're also looking at other ways, other friends of mine in the carbohydrate to fuel side of things. If we can distill if we can't sell all of the fruit, if we can distill it into fuel, and potentially, we're looking into it, potentially being able to distribute that fuel throughout the Cerrado at very cheap prices. So those are things that in the future we're looking into. And I have a really incredible friend, David Bloom, who's one of the top experts in permaculture and carbohydrates to fuel. And so he's a good friend, and we're potentially exploring that kind of thing. So it really is an incredible opportunity to have, number one, this situation, because the Barukas, the Baruzeita tree, number one, was going away. The Brazilian people themselves were closing their doors. They couldn't even make the business viable in their own country, because a lot of passion for it, but many lacked the business acumen to understand where, gathering the nuts from the landmass that's a third of the United States is a huge undertaking. So you can burn a lot of money just transporting that around, storing it, and then being able to prepare it and process it correctly is a huge undertaking. So we took all that on and re-employed the people that were passionate about the Barukas, but we created some quality standards set in place, which is then there's many different names for the nut throughout Paraguay, Bolivia, and Brazil. Most of the Cerrado is Brazil, and there's many. Castanha is a name, and so some of the common names are Baru nut, Almond Chiquitania, all of these things. And so with what we did is Barukas is kind of like our stamp of this is the high quality control, because as you know, in my world starting this, I care about quality, because what's the point if you don't have quality getting to people so they benefit from it? So Barukas really created the stamp of this is the quality standards, this is the fair practices within the indigenous people with the fair wages, so that word goes out of us helping the environment, helping the people, and getting a high nutrient nut out to the world.
How does it compare to other nuts? Taste-wise, I found it to be kind of a cross between like roasted peanuts and almonds.
A lot of people say that. Yeah, and it's got a formidable crunch. So and which is great and it's got this light little shell that you can absolutely eat. There's a lot of antioxidants in this tiny little shell. Yeah. It's peanut and protein, and peanuts have a pretty high protein, and so we're right on par with that, but superior than any nut. So the protein, and then also a very important point is, which your listeners will love to know, is the protein is very high. So 7 grams per 30 gram serving. But you're also getting all the essential amino acids. Okay. So technically it's a seed for all of the people that need that information. It's a drupe. It's called a drupe. Right. It's a seed, but obviously we just call it a nut for ease. Right. So that seed is an incredible delivery system for all these nutrients.
Of course, you have a natural other market, which is the vegan vegetarian market.
100%. I mean, when you're able to deliver on a complete protein, a high amount of micronutrients and antioxidants, and tell a great story of actually supporting the environment. I mean, who doesn't want to support the environment? I mean, I think we do, all of us. I don't care what kind of dogma we're in. We're all just we know that on our deep level we want good things for people, and we want a good environment, and we want to support that. And I don't know why more companies don't do that, other than it's hard work. It's extremely difficult. And I mean, I say all this stuff as if, you know, we just showed up there and we collect these nuts and you know, we bring them to the States. It is definitely one of the hardest things we've ever done, and one of the hardest things that I've been involved in, because we've had to develop and still developing technology to crack the nuts. Because in the wild, they were taking a stone or a machete, and as soon as you crack that nut, you expose it to everything. So obviously, there's huge barriers to entry. So being able to have the resources, the expertise, and the time to develop this thing is, you know, I'm 3.5 years in, and we're still in a massive development stage. So mechanisms to crack that very hard nut, mechanisms to shave the fruit effectively, mechanisms to do a kill step that you have to through good manufacturing practices and HACCP certifications, the quality control standards. We have to do certain things, which we do. And so all of that's time, money, resources, and education within a system that has never been used to upgrading in that way. So you know, I appreciate every nut that I eat. And that's what I want the people to understand, is these things don't just show up. These things come from, from mountaintops to Amazons, to the Cerrado. All of these foods, especially these wild, botanical, nutrient-rich foods, have a journey to take. And that journey has to be traced every step of the way. And I'm kind of answering my own question in the sense that I don't know how people don't do it correctly, is because they don't look enough under the hood to really see what's going on. They just want to kind of get it out to market and tell the story.
So to clarify, to make it easier to understand for our listeners, what are the actual steps from gathering? I mean, take it from the tree and then bring it to the packaged nut. Different steps.
Great question. So again, there's one harvest season. So the Cerrado starts in harvest about August, where the nuts are fully matured in the fruit. Okay. And if you cut them early, they're basically a milky substance, and it hasn't even developed. So you're not going to have people going, hey, now we're making money doing this, I'm going to grab them early. Impossible. So you have to wait for that window. And when that window hits, we employ tens of thousands of people to gather. And we're moving to create a little card that we give them, that they agree to our quality standards and how to do that. So they go out and we guarantee our fair price, and we announce that. So there's no brokers that can come in and undercut them. Everyone knows what the price is, and everyone's happy with that price. So the person actually doing the work gets the actual money that they deserve. So that's a huge thing, because middlemen and brokers can largely take so much from a farmer and a collector. So we've put some place, and this comes by way of handfuls of meetings that we've had through the years of tribal leaders, elders, indigenous leaders, to figure this out about what will work for them. So once that harvest season hits and the fruit starts dropping, now we can collect it. And so basically every 2 we find, we have them leave 1. So there's a natural process where the germination can happen in the wild. And then they gather these sacks. We have collection areas. Again, there's a huge landmass. So we have collection areas where we have certain leaders that are in charge of the collection areas. We have transport situations that come and collect those. So we have a 3-month window where we're collection centers, schedules, and picking up all this fruit, paying those people for exactly how much they collected. We've taken now off of them the cracking in the wild. That's something that's difficult for them. It's give them everything from bad shoulders to carpal tunnel, and it's extremely difficult for them to do that, and largely they didn't get paid well at all for doing that. So we took that off of the table to make it safe and effective, and obviously quality control. So once we gather all that, we have storage facilities around the Cerrado where we can hold the fruit for up to 4 or 5 plus years, because once it's kept in the shell, the nut's good. We've done long-term tests, we've done stability tests on the nut inside, so we have basically a hermetically sealed natural fruit protecting the nut. So we store these, and as soon as we need them or need to process them, then we bring these into one of our 2 facilities in the Cerrado, where we are able to bring de-crack, so crack the shell, get the nut out effectively, and then we go into a kill step, a boil. So we kill off any microbiological that could have influenced the nut after it was cracked open, and then we go into a roasting process. And then that roasting process is a short window of time where it gets roasted, and all of our nutritional data, all of our testing comes after roasting. There's a little trick, and it's not a good trick in the industry, where they'll test it in its raw state before it's fully processed and tell you it's got all these nutrients, when in fact after process it has very little. So and that's just a thing that people don't care, that people in the industry don't care to tell you or share. So after that roasting process, it's packaged and then shipped. So, and we control that whole process. We even control it to the point of having temperature gauges in the shipping containers, and we nitrogen flush. So we take out all oxygen, so it's not able to break down at all. So when you open that bag, you get that full crunch, that full potency, and then a year shelf life. So that's, in a sense, it sounds easy, but it's taken a lot of passion and hard work in order to mechanize that, which is a wild food in a big area. And then of course, we have our nurseries and our tree planting programs, and that is something that as an end result of people getting a great tasting, nutrient dense snack, that we actually get to be a part of conscious consumerism and environmental impact authentically, not just talking about it.
Absolutely. So nutritionally, how do they compare to other nuts?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of, we have a chart on the on our website, Barukas.com, and you can literally look at the comparison of every single nut. So if you compare every nut, we're basically the highest in almost every category. Certainly higher in fiber, certainly higher than antioxidants, the highest with peanuts and protein, and then the micronutrients, the calcium, the magnesium, the iron are some of the highest micronutrients. And so we really are proud of that chart that you see, because that's where we can really back up saying, this is a super nut of the Savannah. This may be, as much as we know right now about the nuts and the seeds in the world, this is the most nutrient dense nut we've ever seen.
Yeah. Mark and I know a lot about being nuts. So we're there.
Well, you guys are maybe the original super nuts.
Right.
I resemble that remark.
I would need to add that to my business card. Yeah. Last question for me before Mark takes over. Has it been a hard sell to the American public?
Has it been a hot sell? Is that what you're saying?
Hard sell.
A hard sell. It's not a hard sell once we have exposure. Once people taste it, boom. It's such an amazing. We've been to several trade shows, and once people eat it, you can see almost 100% of the time, they can't believe it. Because number one, they've never heard of it. And we're talking European buyers, US buyers of the people that have sold nuts for 20 years. Those kind of people, plus regular people, they can't believe that it tastes so good and they haven't known about it. So when we get exposure to people and they actually get to taste it, we've got a customer. And people convert to like, this is my favorite nut. And listen, I've been consuming it for 3.5 years. Hell, I want the business to succeed just so I can keep having my habit be supplied myself. You know, and kids who don't have a filter, kids reach for this all the time. And that to me says so much when a kid's not going to eat something they don't like, certainly not up by their own accord.
Absolutely. So quickly, can you go back and explain your reforestation project?
Yeah. So the program is set to essentially for every 5 pounds, we plant a tree. And this is after meetings with the Forestry Service, nonprofits, doing census reports of how many trees are in the wild, talking to UCLA agroforestry experts, Dr. Paul Fine, Tarek Millerone, like these kind of guys really did our research on understanding how we can do this. And how we do that is we have these nurseries. And the cool thing about the strength of that nut is it has such a high germination rate. So once we plant these seedlings, we distribute them to the indigenous people so that they can replant in the wild. And then we also guarantee that we'll buy the fruit when it fruits. Of course, it's going to take a while because it starts fruiting at maybe 6, 7, 8 years, 10 until it's fully mature and dropping a lot of fruit. But that's the cool thing. Our vision is a lot longer and farther than just a couple years. We want to give these plants and these Baruzeita trees and then guarantee that, hey, we will buy these when you... So they're investing into their own land again, and in control of it themselves, empowering to them. And our goal this year is to plant 1 million trees. And our overall goal is 20 million in the next, hopefully 10 years. So we're not messing around. We really want the sustainability of the business. And this is all done. We got funding from a good friend of mine through a charitable trust. And that charitable trust is the funder of our project, with the priority being the economic viability of the business so that we can plant those 20 million trees. So the heart of this company is in the right space with incredible partners doing it for the right reasons.
Right. Mark, your turn.
Yeah, Darin, you said, you're operating across a huge area, obviously with, as you said, tens of thousands of people during the picking season. Is there any government interaction? Is there any government assistance to what you're doing there?
Yeah, we're not direct government assistance, but we are talking to several NGOs that are all about supporting the Cerrado and the climate of the Cerrado. And we're ongoing with those conversations, and they are already starting to plant some of these trees, seeing and knowing through their research that this is extremely important in the Cerrado. And so when we go back to their farmers, we can start guaranteeing that we'll buy what it is that they're planting. So all of a sudden we're seeing organizations that through their own research, they're seeing the same things we are. So by aligning obviously when you align with people and you have more people doing and going towards the right goals, you create a lot of power that way in the right direction. And so we have a lot of support. People really do see through our reputation and through us on the ground consistently. We have a great team in Brazil that people are seeing that we are, backing up what it is that we're saying by what it is that we're doing.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned obviously your main operation seems to be based around Brazil, but you also mentioned Peru and a couple of other countries. Have you made inroads into those much?
Yeah, not for the Barukas. The Barukas only grows in the Cerrado.
Right.
The Cerrado touches on Paraguay, but we do have an operation in Bolivia, which is a very cool kind of bigger sized castagna or nut. So we have a very strong presence in Bolivia as well. I've done Peruvian adventures for over a decade. So I have very strong relationships and a lot of botanical inroads in Peru. It's similar stories everywhere you go. If you can understand the people and understand what the environment is, understand the botanicals, and willing to do the work in the right way, we can help a lot of people through consumerism. We really can. And I want to prove that through the Barukas project. And why not keep expanding? It's a dream of mine to put a smile on the faces of the indigenous people, and to support medicinal plants going out to people so that they can benefit with a healthy life and the environment wins in the process, rather than this monocropping craziness that we're in right now. It's a mission, but one step at a time, and Barukas is our flagship in terms of demonstrating that this is absolutely possible.
Excellent. Now, at the other end of the supply chain, where is it available at the moment?
Where we're selling it? Yeah. I'd love to say that we're in the UK and Europe at this point. We're not. We're in the US, going out to some retailers online on Amazon, Barukas.com. And we're very much, we just signed, actually, sooner than later, we just signed a very big contract with a distributor for Europe. So that is happening. And so the good thing about that is we don't have to do the legwork of getting through the UK's quality standards, which is a lot of work for every country. So we're with a really strong partner, and that should be rolling out fairly soon. And we're excited to start distributing throughout Europe and the UK.
Excellent. I don't suppose you've got any packets.
I don't actually. I'm like, I wish I did. I ate them all yesterday, and I'm in between out.
Let me get them.
Oh, you got some. Oh, great. Yeah, because I'm in an interesting situation where I lost my house to a fire 6 months ago. And so I'm in it back and forth between staying at a friend's house and rebuilding my house. So I have a bunch of things at my house that the power's not turned on and I can't live there yet. And so I'm doing this a lot.
Okay, here they are.
Hey, beautiful.
Can you
Look
see
at
it?
that.
I'm hiding my face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the back.
Yeah. Look
Excellent.
at that.
Yeah.
I really love that packaging.
And again, the website that people can find out about is barukas.com.
Yep. Barukas.com. BARUKAS.com.
Super. Well, I mean, those are sort of the principal questions.
yeah, then social media if you want to find out and updates and what we're doing and the tree planting and the nutritional material and stuff. Eat Barukas on at Eat Barukas on Instagram and Facebook. So we're constantly supplying more information there as well.
Do you have a Twitter feed, just out of interest?
I do. I never use it, but I don't. I actually don't know if Barukas does, but Darin Olien, Twitter. Yep. And then yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm actually looking forward to those coming over to Europe because out of the three of us, I'm the only one who's not tried them yet. No jealousy, no bad feeling.
Yeah. You want to take a bite, Mark? Yeah.
You're gonna have to virtually pretend right now.
Yeah.
So it's been fascinating. Actually, I'd not heard of them. In sort of in the general market, it's only sort of through these channels. And when Alain was talking about chatting with you some time ago, that I started to look into it. So it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It's very fascinating.
It might sound a strange question, but have you got any more nuts up your sleeve that you'll be bringing to market? If we can say that in polite society, of course.
For sure. Well, we do have different presentations of the Barukas. So we're lightly salting with a great sea salt. We're creating a butter right now. Like I said, the trail mix, the coming together of the fruit. And then we're exploring like some great dark chocolate over the Barukas. And I'm telling you, you won't want to go to any other nut after you eat this.
Excellent. Excellent.
So the super nuts that you guys are will actually be eating the super nut.
That's right.
I'm looking forward to it. You have to send me a packet or 6.
We will.
Mark,
definitely.
Is it me or do you hear a little bit of Arnold Schwarzenegger in Darin? He's got this kind of look.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes,
How
I'll
are
be
you?
back.
You want some super nuts? Yes.
You've nailed that one, that's for sure.
I'm sure it's not the first time you're told this, right?
Not the first time.
No.
Right. Thank you again, Darin, for being on the Low Carb Paleo show. And as we say in Texas, à votre santé, y'all.
Really? I need to go back to Texas.
All over Texas. You hear it everywhere.
Everywhere. Well, considering I'm Texas French,